Yeah, so definitely over kind of March, April, and the beginning of May, it was hard being home. And the strength staff, Coach Scholes and his staff, whatever we had in our garage, I was up in Lubbock sometimes. I was back home in Dallas with my family. I texted them, hey, I got these dumbbells, I got a treadmill, I got this, I got that. And for every single player, they would do custom workouts for what they had in their house for each plan, for every single one of us. So that's kind of what was different. It was kind of weird kind of being at home or kind of being up here just kind of with me and my two roommates. But that's what was kind of weird with the strength staff. But I think they did such a really good job with everything, planning it out for us. So.
No, as coach just said, it's not going to be a normal season for y'all, but I guess for you, just getting to practice, did you kind of feel like that little bit of routine has helped a little bit in terms of what's going on right now?
Yeah, definitely having a schedule because, like you said, during the whole quarantine thing, we kind of would wake up. We'd have Zoom meetings. We would try to have our own schedule, work out this time of the day, work out this time of the day. But definitely kind of getting back into having the same wake up, be up here at the same time every day, practicing every day, doing meetings, just kind of being up here has definitely kind of started to have a routine and kind of have some normalcy back into everything.
Last one for me, I guess I'd be remiss to ask, but I guess what was your relationship with Tommy McVay, and when did you first meet him, and what has he kind of meant to you through the time you've been at Texas Tech?
Yeah, so me and Tommy, I think it was the first ever spring practice. I was 17 years old, graduated high school early, and he kind of walked up to me after on like a break and just kind of said, "What's up? Like, you're gonna be really good here." Like, blah blah blah. And I didn't really know who he was because he's kind of a behind the scenes guy. But ever kind of since then, me and him, every time I walk by, he smile. Every time I'd see him, he'd kind of joke around, and always our joke was definitely throw it to the guys wearing the same color jerseys as you are. He would say that every single day. It didn't matter what meeting we were in. He'd just barge right in and say it. Um, so we were really close. He definitely helped me through the whole coaching change process for sure. We met hours and hours and hours in his office just about the change and everything being different. But yeah, we had a really close relationship, so it's been hard.
Go to Eric Kelly.
Hey, I guess just first question, how's the body feeling? Obviously now 2 straight seasons where you had a serious injury. How you feeling? Everything good and up to date?
Yeah, so I was talking with the buddies the other day, and it's like I've even forgot what I had that I even broke my collarbone last year. We were talking with Cantrell, because he broke his last um, fall camp, and then we used to talk about his, and I was like, even forgot that I did it mine. I can't even feel it. I feel great. I'm excited. Gained a bunch of weight, so I'm ready to rock and roll.
And then off of that, you said you kind of forgot it mentally. How easy was it Was it easier the second time around to kind of mentally get past an injury than it was the first time?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of the longevity of it and kind of like me sitting out. I'm just so ready, if that makes sense. Like I'm so ready to go back out there. I'm so ready to play because it's been so long, number one. And obviously redshirting and being smart and saving that year. But yeah, I'm just so ready. Nothing else matters. I just want to play.
What went into that decision to redshirt? Because obviously, there were a couple games where maybe you could have gone in, but obviously you ended up making that decision.
Um, Basically, it was I probably could have played the last 2 games of the season. So it was play 4 games, 4 or 5 games last season, or play a full 12, now 10 this year, with a new slate, a whole new setup. So I was more comfortable saying, hey, let's take an off season, let's get bigger, faster, stronger. Let's get another year in the offense. Let's build around the guys. Let's play a full season instead of kind of coming back um, right towards the end of the season.
All right, we'll go to Ronald
And then,
Clark. Oh, you got another question there, Eric?
I just had one more. Sorry. Coach Wells had talked about in one of his press conferences that if the season started, a couple weeks ago, you would be the starter. Is that the kind of idea that you've gotten from in terms of rep distribution between you and Maverick?
Yeah, I mean, we're both competing for sure, but I think that's kind of what everyone's leaning towards. But, we're competing and we're battling, so we'll see.
We'll go to Ronald Clark.
Sort of piggybacking on those questions about your health, obviously coming back off that injury and then sort of, having those spring practices taken away from you, did that sort of delay that recovery for you or that process just getting back into, throwing motion and connecting with your teammates and things like that?
I definitely think over summer workouts, having so much like optional time, I guess you could say. We kind of got together with like ourselves, and we kind of did some work with each other. So that really helped. I do think missing spring practice was huge, but one big thing we had is we got those OTAs, or kind of these 9 practices, walkthroughs that the NCAA gave us. So those kind of like 9 full kind of speed walkthrough practices, where we kind of get the timing down that we kind of missed in spring ball. So those really helped, number one. And then just with so many Zoom meetings, now I know like within a regular year, the NCAA has kind of like guidelines around like you can meet with your position coach, or they're out recruiting most of the time in the spring. But with everything kind of dead and us being home, and thus them allowing us to be on Zoom, I think it was huge for us because that's so much film we got to watch. We got to go over everything, go over the season, go over spring like 4 or 5 times the installs. I mean, we met probably 3 or 4 times more this spring than I've ever met in my entire life. So I think that just for me and the guys coming in, all the quarterbacks, all the new guys, it's been huge for everyone. Learning curve for sure.
Go to Bradley King.
Hey, Alan, you kind of got into this a little bit, but how much more comfortable are you in the system from the Arizona game last year to now?
Yeah, light years away ahead of where I was then. I think that just comes with anything. The offense is obviously complicated, and there's a lot of kind of bits and pieces that go into it that you kind of got to learn by doing it, kind of trial by fire or trial by error. So going with that, I think it's just with Coach Wells and kind of what, like I said, with the Zoom meetings that we had, kind of being able to talk through everything. Hey, we can check to this, or hey, this looks good here. This is a good look for that. So I just think me and him are closer, and we're kind of on the same wavelength. Now, I know the Arizona game, it was just the 3rd game we had together, and it was like the 7th month that I even knew him. So obviously it's not going to be as great and perfect and clicking like it will be obviously in year 2. So I definitely think this extra year is going to help a lot, and we are looking really good, so I'll tell you that.
You guys have about a month until kickoff, a little less. Do you feel like the squad is ready?
Yeah, I think we would play right now in the parking lot. I just think everyone's so tired of this. I think the fans are excited to watch too. But yeah, we are so ready to play. It's exciting. There's a lot of juice. There's a lot of energy in practice, so we're just ready to go.
Go back to Carlos Silva.
Yeah, and I know you spoke about it a little bit before, but just the quarterback room, what have you been able to learn from a Donovan Smith or a Henry Colombian, kind of a Maverick McIver? What have you guys been able to do so far? What have you learned of those guys that have kind of joined you? Pardon me.
Yeah, I think they're all hungry. I think the quarterback room is deep. We have depth now, a lot of talent, a lot of good quarterbacks. And so I think that makes all of us better as quarterbacks, kind of knowing that their guys are going to push me, I'm going to push them, and everyone's going to push each other. And we're just competing, there's no kind of just like sitting, all right, everyone just kind of like know their spots and kind of sits down and kind of like accepts it. Everyone's trying to get that spot, and so I think that makes everyone better. And those guys are, like I said, just with those Zoom meetings, I think that did so much for those young guys, especially kind of like Donovan. And then with Henry kind of already being in the system for a couple years, he could kind of come in and immediately help. So his learning curve wasn't really that. We had a couple new stuff that we changed in the past 2 years from where they were at. But no, I think Henry is coming in, and everyone kind of knows the offense, so it's just kind of who can execute.
I know you kind of alluded to it, but just bringing in Henry, how big was he just to kind of be a little bit of a learning tree? I know maybe the names and maybe the plays are named a little bit different, but I guess what has he been able to kind of give you and let you know that this is something that can make you a little bit quicker, a little bit faster in terms of your decision making and things like that?
Yeah, so he obviously was behind Jordan for 2 years, so he knew Jordan really well, and obviously he's a first-round draft pick. So kind of him, I wouldn't say schematically, hey, this is where you go here with this, but just kind of like as you play quarterback off the field, kind of like helping me as like a quarterback with the locker room and stuff like that, that Jordan did with his team. So that was kind of cool that I get to kind of see how Jordan did, and he kind of let me in on some stuff, how he kind of ran the locker room and ran the team. So that's been pretty cool having him here. And then kind of when you bring anybody in, it's easy and it helps a lot, and you can kind of move forward if they already know the offense, So he was probably one of the only quarterbacks in the nation that already knew it, so coming in. So it was just kind of huge. He can kind of hit the ground running.
And I know I kind of asked you before, but I guess is there anything that you can kind of remember from Tommy that he kind of gave you some advice? I know you explained the fact of throwing into the same colored jersey.
Yeah.
It's kind of a, but is there anything else that he kind of gave you in terms of either something that he told you or just maybe a story or anecdote that really kind of encapsulates him?
Yeah. I don't know if you can put it on the media. Um, yeah.
I guess just
Yeah. No, he's a good guy. He was just to kind of put down every day. You just put a smile on everyone's face, and just every time that he would in a meeting. I mean, I'm telling you, if it was like Sunday after a game we just lost and we're all sad, like we're in the meeting room and everyone's just kind of sitting there all gloomy. I mean, he'd just barge right in, smile on his face. Who we throwing it to today, boys? And I mean, it was just the guys with the same color jerseys as we are. So it was just kind of his persona, carefree, just a guy that would just Coach Wells says, he makes you feel like everyone's his best friend. If you met him for 5 minutes, you felt like he was your best friend. So that was him. But I'll remember that always. Throw it to the same guys wearing the same jerseys as you are.
Go to Brendan Solis, and then we'll get close to wrapping up after a couple more.
Hey, Alan, how's it going?
Good.
Just wanted to ask you about the guys up front, the offensive line. How they kind of looked from your perspective. I know you're replacing two big tackles there with Bruffy and Terrence now. Just kind of how they've been meshing so far.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good competition going on. We got about 3-4 guys competing for left. We got 2-3 guys competing for right. But I mean, like I said, just like the quarterback room, I think we have a lot more depth this year than we had last year in almost every position across the board. And that makes people want to compete. That makes you better because no one's complacent. Everyone's kind of looking over their shoulder like, So they're fighting for spots. They're fighting for jobs. Like I said, it's all communication. There's a couple of new guys that are coming in, making some noise, some old guys that kind of need keep doing their thing. But I just think with the O-line, there's so much communication that goes along, and just the more reps they get and the more time they get in the offense. And we got to put pads on. I think we get pads on Monday or something like that. So that's kind of when it really changes, and we'll really kind of understand. So we've just kind of been taking it slow and figuring out with the season if we're going to have it or not. And then kind of when they said that, we're kind of been ramping it back up. So when we get those pads on, then we'll for sure be able to tell.
We'll go to Ronald Clark, and then we'll end with Eric Kelly.
You guys obviously had a couple off days, but basically this has been a full week in fall camp now for you guys. How do you feel like the offense is progressing, and what have you seen, so far in this first week?
Yeah, like I said, those 9 OTAs we had before fall camp really helped those young guys in the Zoom meetings, and the quarantine helped a lot. So there's been obviously there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be MAs, misassignments. There's going to be some mess ups. You're going to drop the ball. That's just going to happen. But I think this year, compared to previous years, even 3 years back, there's just a lot. Everyone knows what they're doing. There's a little mess up. They're like, oh, dang, mess this route, or I messed up this signal. But it's not as bad as kind of what it was as a freshman coming in, just not knowing much, because they've put time and effort into it. So this fall camp, I think, it's been really good, and the offense is looking really good. It's looking crisp. It's looking fast. And even the 2s and 3s and 4s, we got 4 huddles running down the field, running the same plays the 1s and 2s are. And they look great, and they're looking fast. So I think that's everything. It's just everyone knows it, and it looks a lot smoother and crisper, and we kind of, as quarterbacks, we're kind of taking control. So it looks really good.
All right. Eric Kelly will finish this off right here.
Okay, I got two final ones for you, Alan. First one, when you bring back 5 or 7 top weapons out at receiver, how much smoother does that make anything, and especially those first couple weeks, as you guys just kind of know where everyone's going to be?
Yeah, definitely having those older guys kind of help even the younger guys, right? So having those guys and trusting them that they know what they're going to do, and they've been in the same meetings everyone else has. Just kind of not to say we don't encourage them as much, but they can kind of hey, as the younger guys, hey, look at Vash. Hey, look at Seth. Hey, look at Eric. Hey, look at Keyshawn. Look at these guys. Look at Rigdon on how they do it. So then those younger guys they set an example for them. So they're like, okay, they can sit on the sideline and kind of watch and see it, and with their own eyes instead of kind of watching it, be in the film room or on a Zoom call. They actually get to see it. So having those older guys is just kind of a security blanket for me, number one, because I know where they're going to be. They know where I'm going to put the ball, and then for those younger guys to kind of watch them and kind of grow from watching and seeing them.
And the last one for you. Each year it seems like every quarterback in the nation makes a progression in one area. What's the area where 2020 Allen Bowman we're going to maybe see the most notable difference or improvement?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've worked on a lot. Number one, we're staying healthy. I'll tell you that right now. Number one, we're staying healthy. Number two, I definitely think getting through my throws. I personally think I throw from a lot of arm angles. I throw from a lot of arm slots. And that's good when I have to, and sometimes I do it when I don't have to, and yet it still gets there. But I think kind of I'm the most accurate when I'm clean and crisp and have my arm angle up over the top and kind of get through my throws with my hips and my feet. So just kind of exploding through every throw, getting through every throw when I have to. And then obviously when there's pressure and it's not always going to be perfect, I got to run this way, throw it this way with this arm angle. But I just think what I worked on or want to or have been a lot is definitely sitting in that pocket and then ripping it smooth and being smooth with the football and with the feet and hips, getting all the way through the ball.
Well, Zach McPherson has been really impressive. We started him out on the outside, which is where he played last year. And then, the biggest question mark we had with implementing me into the schematics of things was who was going to be the nickel, because we're changing that position from more of an outside linebacker body to a defensive back, and you've got to have numbers for that, and you've got to recruit the numbers for that. But probably a week or so ago, Coach Patterson came to me and said, let's take a look at Zach at that position, and he's done wonderful. He's a smart guy, he's a conscientious guy, and he's picked it up really well. And what that's done is enabled us to be able to get what we feel like is the best possible combination of guys on the field. Jamarcus Ingram on the outside has been a huge impression on me. Only getting 4 days in the spring, we were still going through the basics, and I didn't get a chance to see any scrimmage work. But I think probably one of the biggest benefits for us was having the time off to be able to get to know the guys, get to talk to them. And what it enabled me to do was to see who was reliable, who's dependable, and more than anything else, who's mentally tough. And I think Jamarcus has taken it upon himself to really listen, implement the things that he's learning in the meeting rooms, and it's showing up on the field. And Adrian Fry, been really solid. We moved him back to the outside, came on strong, after about the first week of practice, and really been impressed with him, not only from a playing standpoint, but his leadership in the meeting room. That's been really impressive as well.
Coach Wells had mentioned Eric Monroe as a guy that not necessarily surprised, but kind of came in and really kind of showed what he was about. What has he shown you as a guy that's transferred in and kind of knows that he's going to have to be the guy that really kind of makes an impact early on?
Well, I think the biggest thing about Eric is, he's coming from a program of winning. He's coming from a culture of really good defensive backs. So I think the way that he studies, the way that he carries himself, he's a very positive young man. And I think anytime you come from a program like that and that's your pedigree, other people pick up on it. So I'd probably say the best thing he's been for us is an example. He never gets down on himself, goes above and beyond, off the field, coming by, meeting with us, trying to find out things that he needs to find out. And he's a talented guy. His work ethic is really good. He finishes drills, and those things just become contagious.
Last one for me. I know he's had a few position changes. I'm talking about Xavier Martin, quarterback, wide receiver, and now defensive back. What have you seen from him so far, and what are expectations for him, considering he's kind of been that guy that's been showing his versatility in the last couple of years? I know you've only seen him this year, but what have you seen from him so far?
Well, I was able to see him a couple of days in the spring, and we actually had him at that spur position and made a decision just as a staff to move him back to one of the high safety positions, and he's done really well. Again, he's been a quarterback, so he understands the passing game. He understands what quarterbacks are looking for and what they're trying to do, and he brings that to the defensive side of the ball. Probably the most impressive thing about him, though, is just his willingness to learn and his eagerness to learn. He's been a guy that I personally can point to in the meeting room of the right way to do things and how to go about things, and you need that when you're trying to establish a culture.
Go to Eric Kelly.
Coach, you mentioned Adrian Fry moving him back to corner. When y'all were thinking about the decision, why ultimately did you make it?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you have to look at the best combination of your guys. And when you look at the skill set of Adrian and you look at the skill set of Zach, the skill set of Alex Hogan, all are very similar. and you want to know how you can get those guys in there. From a physicality standpoint, Zach's a physical guy, and we felt like, he's a guy that can handle some of the blitzes and some of the run responsibilities that come with that. But, Adrian has done a really good job of showing his coverage ability and his ability to be able to pick up the zone schemes that we've implemented. So I think it was just really looking, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the best combination. And it's not anything that we really planned on doing, but it's just kind of how it played out. And he's done a really good job. I think he's matured even from the spring, when I had him just from, being an older guy. And I think he accepts the challenge of being able to maybe match up against receivers that we're going to do. But more than anything else, it was the ability to be able to get Ingram, McPherson, and Fry, all which are probably three of our top guys on the field at the same time.
Not exactly your position group, but a guy you're familiar with. When you look at statistically, Jacob Morgenstern's not going to jump off the page at you, but what about him led you guys to bring him into the program?
Well, naturally, I've got a long history with Jacob. I was involved in the recruitment of Jacob, and Jacob is a guy that I term a captain. We had a culture at Duke that we recruited a certain type kid, and Jacob exemplifies everything you want when you're trying to build a program. He's going to be a team guy. He's an effort guy. He's an extremely smart guy. And knowing him, I knew that he'd be able to handle a lot of positions. And what we did at Duke, we played basically two inside linebackers, and that didn't fit him. When we recruited him at Duke, we had a guy by the name of Jeremy Cash who had been ACC Defensive Player of the Year and went on to play linebacker in the NFL. And we were recruiting Jacob and another young man to replace him. And then we had the same philosophy of change that we're bringing here. We wanted to change that position to more of a defensive back nickel guy as opposed to a linebacker. So it kind of left him as the odd man out because he's not a prototypical inside linebacker. But everything about Jacob in my time in dealing with him was A+. You're not going to find a better guy. And what I explained to the guys when we were talking about bringing him in was he's going to be a guy that's benefit to you in the locker room. He's going to be a guy that's benefit to you in the dorms. He's going to be a guy that's beneficial to not only your younger guys that you bring in, but your older guys, because the way I describe him is he is the example of what you need to win. So he's a great addition for us.
And then anytime a secondary goes through maybe some of the injury issues that Texas Tech did last year, I guess the first thing that people think of is how it might build depth. Is that something that you notice comparable to other places you've been, just in terms of not only the things that the ones can do, but maybe the twos and threes who got action last year?
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you're on this level, you have to prepare yourself for injury. That's why you've got to recruit to it, and that's why you've got to build your scheme so that maybe some younger guys can fit into it because you're going to have those situations and those problems. And one of the things these guys did a really good job last year was bringing in some young guys that I feel will be able to plug in. But when Coach Patterson was selling me on taking this job, the thing he told me was that we're going to have to go out and get some older guys to be able to fill some spots. And, we got after it in the offseason and was able to bring in Cam Watts, Cam White, and Eric Monroe. And I think that has really solidified us from a depth situation. And now you throw in everything that's going on with the COVID-19, you have no idea what your combination is going to look like from week to week. But we feel really good about the guys that we have being able to plug in, not only the top 5 guys that we've got, but we feel good about the guys that are behind them and some of the younger guys that are just learning the system as well.
Go to Brady King and then Ronald Clark.
Hey, Coach, just piggybacking off of Eric's question about depth, how much potential do you see overall in the secondary?
I'm really encouraged. We've got some guys that are really buying in. We've got some athleticism. We've got guys with really good ball skills, and they pick up things really good in the meeting room. And I think the best way to tell how your secondary is going to look is how they compete with one another. And that's probably been the most impressive thing I've seen, throughout these OTAs and throughout these first couple of practices that we've had. These guys go out every day and compete with one another. They are very encouraging to one another, and they've got a great attitude. So that's encouraging to me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Go to Ron Clark.
Obviously, with the pandemic, that sort of slowed down things, but Tech bringing back so many guys, and then, like you mentioned, you guys bringing in a lot of players with some good experience as well. How smooth has this transition been for you guys?
It's been really good. Coach Wells has done a really good job of putting a plan together, considering the circumstances. This is uncharted territory for everybody, so there was no blueprint for it. But, we all put our heads together before we actually brought the kids back and had a plan for what we wanted to do. And, our athletic director, our medical staff, our doctors have all been really good in getting us the information that we need to know to kind of allow us to be able to put a schedule together. And, the biggest thing is, you've got to have a group of coaches together that can adapt to adversity. And I think that's what Coach has done in putting this staff together. We've got a wealth of experience. All of us has been in the fire before, and even though we've never experienced anything like this, it's just one of those things you have to deal with in life. So we're all on one accord, and, Coach changes things up every day as he sees fit, and we just kind of roll with the punches, and the young men have done a good job of adapting to us.
All right, we'll go to Phil Mayer, and then we'll go to Carlos Silva to end it.
Hey, Coach. What's one area you sort of identified as that we can really see improvement on from last year to this year with the DBs?
Consistency is the biggest thing. I think, I'm one of those guys that pride myself on, we're going to do a few things and we're going to get good at it. And Coach P and myself are on the same page as far as that. But, defensive back position is a very, very fundamental position. It's something that, it can get boring in the preparation for it because you're doing the same things over and over and over again. And I think getting young men to buy into that, with me being a new coach coming in, that's always kind of a question mark. But I think the guys have really done a good job of listening to me and trying to implement the things that I'm telling them. So I'm seeing not only from the film that I watched on them last year, but from the few days I had them in spring practice till the first week we had OTAs until now, there has been a very, very consistent amount of improvement from these guys day to day. And I can tell what these young men are doing is they're taking the things that I'm teaching them in a small amount of time on the field, and they're taking it and working on these things on their own because they're getting better and better at it. So I think that would be the one thing that I'd say has stood out to me.
We'll finish with Carlos Silva.
Hey, Coach, you spoke about it a little bit, but in terms of some of the younger defensive backs, who have you kind of seen that can kind of step in like an Alex Hogan did last year and see some playing time? Or like you said, did you kind of feel like you filled up some of those spots, or do you kind of feel like there are some guys that can kind of work their way into that rotation?
Definitely. With everything, again, that's going on with the pandemic, you have to keep a very close eye on the young guys. And, I'd say Nate Floyd and Cam Watts are two of the guys that have stood out to me individually, just from a learning standpoint and being able to fill in. I've really been impressed with Nate Floyd because I've got a lot of hands-on dealing with him. Anytime you've got a guy with that length and he has really good ball skills, that's exciting because he has things that you can't coach. And, we made a move with Kobe Minor, taking him from safety, which is what he played in high school, and putting him out at corner. And he's extremely twitchy, really has good ball skills, and he's a guy that brings a savvy. So I'm overly excited about that group, not only for the future, but if we have to plug those guys in this year, I'd feel pretty good about it.
Okay, well, I'm really impressed with Jamarcus Ingram. He's really stepped up a lot. He was in and out of the season last season because he was having injuries with his hand and with his arm, and coming back, like he was really impressive because going into the spring, we didn't know where we was going to fall because we had new coaches, so we had new techniques and things like that. But this summer with the film study and all the Zoom calls and stuff, like he really showed that he knows the game of football, and he really impressed some of us.
How have you kind of improved your game, and how has this offseason been for you? Have you had to do anything unique to kind of make sure that you either kept your weight up or done anything to kind of get your strength up?
I've always tried to eat as much as I can, but I just double it up now, like, because eating and staying hydrated, that's the best way to keep your weight in camp. Like, most of it is just water weight. You lose about 5 pounds because you're sweating so much. So you got to keep your electrolytes. You got to keep the salt in your food. It's real tedious, but you got to do it day in and day out.
I know the big name that kind of left last year, Douglas Coleman. Who do you feel are some guys that really want to kind of step in and really kind of take on that role that he played as a game changer with the way he was making interceptions?
I would just say all of us, honestly. We all got to do our part. Some of the I can say that some of the picks that he had, he was doing his job well, and he was kind of like making up for overthrown balls and things like that. Like, he was like the last line of defense, and he was coming in clutch with it because he was right over top when you needed him. He was right underneath the guys when you needed him. He's done it for me. He's done it for guys like Tommy, guys like Zach. So I just expect every last one of us to kind of like up our game so we can catch those picks ourselves.
We will go to Eric Kelly.
Adrian, so when you make the change to corner, then to safety, back to corner, are there small little intricacies that you kind of have to get used to when you go from one position to another, back to corner, or is it all kind of similar enough to where there's not that much of a growing pains?
Well, the one thing I can say is your vision changes because going from the island, what they call it, and then going to the box, like, it's completely different. When you're at safety, you got to keep your head on a swivel. You got to see the whole field. Peripheral vision is a big thing, but when you're at corner, like, you don't have to see as much because you are seeing it from as you're the widest guy on the field. So it's the vision aspect changes a lot, and then the footwork aspect changes too, because when you're in the slot, when you're playing at safety, you don't really get the chance to press much because the guys that you're pressing are mostly off the ball, so they're like 2-3 yards off the ball. So it's like you might as well just play off coverage. But going back to corner, I get to press a lot more, and then I get to be in bail thirds, I get to be in bail quarters, I get to play cover two, I get to trap, like I get to do all that stuff that corners do now. And at safety, you're mainly just like curl flat defender. You're a middle of the field guy, or you're coming down and dropping on top of number two in man coverage. So it's just the mindset that's the biggest change I can say.
Obviously, you'll play kind of wherever you're needed, but was there an excitement level getting to move back to the position you started at?
Yeah, I'm always excited to play corner because it's just something about being on that island that just gets me going. Like, there's nothing better than being out there by yourself, knowing it's one-on-one and having that confidence that nobody lining up in front of you is going to beat you.
I guess finish this sentence or this thought. In order for the Texas Tech secondary to be better this year, the area y'all have to improve in is where?
The DB room. Because this league, this conference is a passing conference. Yeah, we got teams like Iowa State and Kansas State that's gonna run the football, but you gotta be sound vertical. You gotta be sound in the pass game because you're gonna play teams like TCU, West V. You're gonna play teams like Texas and Oklahoma where they're gonna throw the ball. They're gonna throw the ball deep on you. Like, you gotta be able to have confidence in your DBs that they're going to be able to do their jobs and do their jobs efficiently and effectively for you to be able to win in this conference. So in order for us to win big games, we're going to have to play big. We're going to play big in this secondary.
Go to
last one for me. Sorry, Daddy. Is when you watch the tape last year, or when you guys watched tape last year, what was the biggest, maybe most disappointing thing that you saw on tape that you guys know you're better than in that area?
I could say just like simple football IQ that guys were just overlooking, including myself. Like, it was plays like I can go back to the 3rd and 14 against Arizona, and I was coming down to drop over number 2 and play man, and I wasn't aware of the sticks. So he ran an out route, and I just played the out route as if it was just a regular out route in the middle of the field. But getting a guy down, it was like, dang, they got a first down. And like things like that, like, slip your mind sometimes. But I would say, like, being very, like, the amount of focus wasn't always there, like, across the board. It was guys having missed assignments and stuff. But I could say that's the most disappointing thing. Knowing guys shouldn't have done things that they did.
Go to Phil Mayer, and then we'll go to Ron Clark.
Hey, so I have a couple of questions. You mentioned the football IQ improving. How much of that is Coach Jones coming in, and how much of it is just sort of like another year of experience under your belt?
On one hand, So like with DB coaches, they're always going to teach you down and distance. They're always going to teach you the significance of 3rd and 4 versus 3rd and 8, and 2nd and 10 versus 2nd and 1, and what kind of plays you're going to get and what scenarios. And then on top of that, like being in games, like actually seeing the difference and actually like living the difference. I feel like it's a little bit of both. Like I could say it's an even mix.
Okay, and then one more. What kind of an energy does Coach Jones bring to the DB room, and how can that sort of manifest itself on the field?
Coach Jones is very energetic. Like, I can't tell you the last time we've had a coach that's been that juiced up. I can say since my freshman year, like he's always with it. Like he's loud, he's obnoxious, and he's intentional. Like everything he's doing, he's not doing it for no reason, because he's always told us like when it comes to game day, he's not gonna say anything. Like by that time we're gonna know what he's gonna say. So if we have any like problems or anything, like we're gonna know already what the correction is without him even saying a word. So right now with us being in practice, he's doing a lot of hooping and hollering. He's doing a lot of corrections and like he's very energetic. I think Zach McPherson caught a pick in one-on-ones one of the first couple of days of practice, and Jones ran from behind the quarterbacks all the way up to him, just to jump up with him. So it's just being that energetic is going to be very, very positive for our DB room.
Go to Ron Clark.
Obviously, there's been some changes in that DB room, but you guys also, brought back a couple guys, and then you added to that mix with some guys who have good experience. How smooth has this transition been, sort of with everything going on?
I feel like this has been a very smooth transition, because the guys we're bringing in, like the JUCO transfers, like Cam White, like Cam Watts, and then we're bringing in the guys like Jacob Morgenstern in the linebacker room. Even though he's not in our DB room, he does help us a lot in coverage because he's so smart when it comes to football. And then we got a guy like Eric Monroe from LSU. So, like, those changes right there, like, of course, like, he's the only guy in this building besides Coach Cosgrove that has won a national championship. So just, like, learning, like, some of the little things that he does, like, okay, like, this is the type of, like, attitude you got to have. Like, this is the type of things, like, that's going to benefit our room. And then, like, transitioning to the film, like, these guys learn quick. Like, I'm not going to lie. This is we're so far ahead now compared to last season. Like, at this time last year, like, we might have been going through install 2, maybe 3. But right now, like, we're, like, flying through installs. Everybody's picking up the concepts and just excelling. And the additions to the team have been truly additions. And the guys that we've brought back, they've done nothing to add on to themselves. So I feel like this is really good.
Go to Brady King, and then we'll finish with Carlos Silva.
Hey, Adrian, I know you're all going through a lot losing Tommy McVay. What did he mean to you personally, and how is the team kind of coming together through all of this?
Tommy McVay is by far the most important person to the staff. And yes, we have a head coach, we have player personnel, we have all these other people that pitch in a lot, but Tommy McVay is the guy that gets the engine going. Like, there's so much he does behind the scenes, there's so much he pours into this university, into this program, and to lose him in a time like this where everybody's just trying to pull together, like, it's truly heartbreaking. Because going back to that first season I played in 2018 when we went down to Stillwater and played Oklahoma State at home, that win right there was the most important win in Tommy McVay's past decade, 2 decades. And I could see the passion and I could see how much it meant to him when I would come to the sideline between possessions and he'd, like, uplift everybody. He'd say something encouraging to everybody he walked past, and he would just stand there, like, just watching the game, just eager and just ready to win. And I can't put it into words how much he means to me and how much he means to this program. I can't tell you how much I miss him already, and it's only been a couple days. And it makes me sad just knowing that I can't see him on game day with them shades and that silver hair slicked back. Like, it truly is devastating, and Tommy McVay will always be in our hearts, and he will forever be a part of this program.
Sorry, thank you for answering.
You're welcome.
We'll finish with Carlos.
Kind of along with Brady had mentioned, you kind of already alluded to it, but I guess just is there any moment that really kind of stands out to you as to what kind of made you feel that connection with Tommy and just what he meant to you personally?
Where his office was in the building in the coach's hallway, you always had to walk past him to get to your coach's office, unless of course you were going to the head coach's office or the staff room. But you had to walk past his office at some point. And I remember my first 2 years here, he was always in the office, always. And every time I walked past him, it was always be me and a couple of the guys in my recruiting class, like John Davis and Quincy Addison. And every time we walked past, he'd say the same thing, like, look at that crew. It's a beautiful crew right there. And, like, we walk by, we go to our coach's office, and whenever we leave, he's like, y'all have a good day. And then, like, it's just, like, little things like that he did. And, like, whenever you seen him, he was always smiling. Like, I honestly and I personally can never account for a time where he was sad or where he was, like, just truly not happy or if he was ever upset or anything. That guy was always in a good mood. He was always laughing and joking. And whether you got there day one or whether it was your last day in the program, like, he treated you like you were his best friend and y'all have known each other for 70 years. Like, it's the little things that he does that made him him. And I think everybody on the team can say the same thing.